Hey everybody, this review is on Buried. So the plot of this movie is this guy named Paul Conroy, played by Ryan Reynolds, is a truck driver working in Iraq, but after an ambush attack one day, he wakes up trapped and he finds out that he's buried inside a coffin and he's being held for ransom for $5 million. And all he has is his cell phone and a lighter, and he's really scared. He's trapped and buried in the coffin. No one can hear him, and he really tries to get his all anybody he can contact with on his phone. He tries to really preserve the battery life and try to contact his boss, his employees, everybody he works with, and even outright his family to try to see if they could try and go down to Iraq to save him. And but he finds himself really useless, helpless in this scenario because all he has is a lighter which he can use to, you know, find his way through the coffin because it's very dark, and he has a flask with some alcohol in it just to keep him hydrated. So he finds himself very terrified, very scared, and he even tries to make a ransom video, being threatened by the terrorists to try and get him for $5 million, and Paul has to do whatever he can to try and survive, and hopefully someone can save him from being buried. This was a really good movie, actually. Ryan Reynolds is one of those actors who's better than I feel he's better than he's given credit for. Because, like, let me clarify. I do really like Ryan Reynolds. I mean, that's kind of no surprise. In a lot of reviews of his, I've reviewed a lot of his movies and I've praised his performances. But this proves that he's way better and more versatile of an actor than people give him credit for. Because as much as I love the Deadpool movies, I admit they kind of damaged Ryan Reynolds' image because everyone says Ryan Reynolds just plays the same character in every movie. He just plays Deadpool in every movie. He just acts like Deadpool. Okay, if you seriously think Ryan Reynolds acts like Deadpool in every single movie he's in, you got to see more movies he's in besides Deadpool. Because come on, definitely maybe um, Turbo, even though that was animated. Van Wilder, definitely maybe. The Proposal. He doesn't act like Deadpool in every movie, so and because this is not a comedy movie, like this is a thriller, and dare I say it's pretty intense. Like as someone who kind of comes and go, I'm not. I won't say I'm black and white with claustrophobia. I won't say I'm generally claustrophobic, but there are some cases like if it's a case like this, I would be very claustrophobic. So if you're a claustrophobic person, this is going to be really intense for you. It's going to be really thrilling. I mean, it's not scary, obviously. Like, no one would find this scary. This isn't a horror movie. It's just a thriller. It's a survival thriller. And I found it really interesting for a premise that you think would sound boring. It's actually really interesting. Like, yeah, most of the movie you just see it's just Ryan Reynolds in a coffin using a cell phone. And you think that'd be boring, but no, the fact that it has just mostly one location throughout mostly the entire movie does make it a little intense. Like the fact that it's such a small space and you see a guy struggling to live, and all he has is a flask with some alcohol, a lighter, and a cell phone that could die at any time. So, yeah, it was, yeah, I don't know how this movie was filmed, but like, I'm sure Ryan Reynolds would have probably had to do a lot of training and a lot of, you know, stuff to, I mean, I'm pretty sure he wasn't actually buried in this for this movie. It was probably just, just effects, but still, like, it's really good. Like, it's really interesting to see how Paul survives the whole thing. And he actually, I mean, yeah, he can freak out, he can, yell and shout, but he really tries to stay calm throughout the whole thing. And that's something that really makes it interesting to see because it's something that, well, I can't speak for everybody, but let me say most people can't relate to. Like, do you think if most people found themselves buried in a coffin and only had nothing but a phone and a lighter, do you think people would take that well? No, I think people would just freak out instantly because, your mindset wouldn't just think to, quick solutions. You just freak out and think you have nothing and you're helpless. But yeah, it can get really intense, and even sometimes it could get downright sad, like when you even hear Paul like calling with his wife and stuff and his family, and like sometimes like even his coworkers, and they don't really have a lot to say, and sometimes they could even outright argue with him, and even though Paul's life is on the line and he could die at any second, and he feels really sad that some people still want to bring up problems, and it really makes you feel sad for him. Like obviously they don't really show much of his character beyond being buried, but they mostly it's just people on the other end of the line just talking and explaining stuff. But I get it. It was mostly a mostly one set location type movie. They didn't want to do a bunch of flashbacks, which I liked. I liked that they didn't really go into that territory because I liked seeing the survival aspect of how it's such a cramped space and it's really scary for Paul, and sometimes he can actually take it well, even though sometimes he can freak out, but he genuinely tries to survive. And it's very interesting. It's kind of like that movie Missing, where it's not where like the whole visual aspect doesn't seem that exciting, but the act it actually does tell a really interesting story about progression and problem solving. So if you do like movies like that, I think this is a really good one to check out, and I'd say it's one of Ryan Reynolds' best movies. Definitely one of his best performances, showing he can actually be a very versatile actor, and he's way better than people give him credit for. And though if you're claustrophobic, this might be a little bit of a rough watch for you. Me, like I said, I'm not so black and white with claustrophobia, but this one, yeah, it is intense, but that's what makes it really fun. It actually is a really good it's a really good film, and I think Ryan Reynolds delivers a really good performance that's not like much of his other stuff, and you can prove he really can act. And if you like stories about problem solving, even if no, nothing is really shown on screen and it's more about survival and intensity, this is definitely a must watch. I think it's really worth watching if you haven't seen it. It's no masterpiece, but it's a really interesting film. It's a very different kind of film, especially for a thriller, but I really like it. I think it's a strong recommendation if you like survival films, or if you really want to see Ryan Reynolds in a different kind of performance that's not just like a popcorn flick. So yeah, Buried, it's really good. It's a lot of fun, and it's very intense, it's very thrilling, but also has a very interesting story despite the limitations they had in terms of, the cinematography and such. So, yeah, it's Buried is definitely worth watching if you haven't seen it, and if you're a Ryan Reynolds fan, I think it's a good watch if you just want to see something different, and something that can prove that he really can act in serious roles. So, that's my review of Buried, so I'll see you all later.